The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare just came out, and I know what you're thinking. I'm not reading that long-ass name. But luckily for me, you don't need to know how to read to understand this movie. You see, the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare is a very simple story. It follows a team of criminals who get let out of prison by the Queen of England or some shit with the goal of shooting as many Nazis as possible. Looking at the premise, it is basically the Suicide Squad with a shaved gorilla instead of Margot Robbie. But the Suicide Squad wasn't the first movie to do that. And since this one's based off a true story, it can get away with a plot that's not exactly original. I mean, they made Oppenheimer about my post-Taco Bell shit and nobody called it a ripoff. This isn't a movie where you should expect the main characters to go through any trouble at all. The Nazis are like stormtroopers. I am fully convinced they would lose a standoff to a blind, deaf, no-legged, one-armed toddler with Parkinson's. The terminating team just sort of walk in, mow down hundreds of Nazis, throw out a few zingers, and leave. All while Freaky Cavill has his tongue out the whole time. Weird ass. And while the simplicity of this movie can seem shallow, it's kind of the heart of it. Some movies engage all the neurons in your brain and really make you think. But the only things you're thinking about during the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare is, damn, he just ripped the heart out of a Nazi and I like looking at her. I don't feel like I learned a single thing after watching this movie, but I still had a pretty good time. As a critic, I know I'm supposed to think about the bigger picture, but I also just don't really care. I was entertained the entire time, regardless of if I thought Freaky Cavill was ever in danger of getting his ass beat. Although his weird ass would probably like it. The action was really good, with the Clash of Clans Barbarian having the best fight scenes by far, using a bow and arrow, knife, axe, and his bare hands to turn the Wiener Schnitzel people into Wiener Schnitzel. And even the scenes of the killing crew doing absolutely nothing on their journey, just goofing off, were pretty good. I don't know if they genuinely had well-written dialogue or if their happiness was just rubbing off on me, but Henry Cavill especially was incredibly likable in this film. Well, up until Freaky Cavill comes out again and I get scared. But even though I had a great time with the goofy bullshit that was this movie, it doesn't take much scouring of the cosmos to see its problems. Henry Cavill and the murder mob aren't the only part of the story. There's also a B-plot about Marjorie Stewart and this guy playing spy to get information on the Nazis, with this guy's role to throw a big party while Marjorie tries to seduce the top Nazi. Now, that shouldn't be too hard considering she seduced me in the trailer, but this guy is described in the movie to be the one thing worse than a Nazi. A ginger. A super Nazi. And they never actually explain what that title entails, but he looks really mean, and near the end he shows off his sex dungeon, which I'm assuming Freaky Cavill's weird ass has already tried out. In the interactions between Marjorie and the super Nazi, they pull some Bilbo Baggins bullshit and talk in German riddles to each other. But since there wasn't one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish in any of them, I was a bit confused.
Ich bin dein Bruder, aber du bist nicht mein Bruder. Wer bist du?
Ich habe einen groben Arsch. Also, this is a bit off topic, but Bilbo, saying what's in my pocket isn't a riddle, you jackass. Anything could be in there. This led to some moments of genuine tension in their interactions, and Isa Gonzalez's acting shined in these scenes, because she seemed genuinely scared to have to talk to this guy. Which, I don't want to brag, is something a lot of the ladies say about me. And I liked the B-plot too. The problem is just that the story was juggling two different movies. It was a little off-putting to go from super happy fun times to a story with actual tension and no happy fun times. I did like both parts, but for very different reasons. And I think if instead of two stories there was actual tension and stakes on the Butcher Boys side of things, other than Freaky Cavill doing some weird shit, it would have been a much better movie overall. But at the same time, it does say it's based on a true story, so you're kind of in a sticky situation either way. Not that kind of sticky situation. And while I did think this was a pretty good movie, Guy Ritchie directing it gave me much higher hopes for what it could have been. After the masterpiece that he released on Netflix and his track record of great movies, I think he could have done better. We were reaching for the stars and Guy Ritchie said, "Nuh-uh, we're landing on the moon." And this movie was pretty good, but it wasn't great. Especially with Henry Cavill at his disposal, I feel like there really could have been something special here. Well, actually, I'm a little confused about Mr. Cavill. I'm really rooting for the guy and I think he's a good actor, but Argyle is a skid mark that can't be wiped out easily. Overall, I'm gonna give The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare a Tweedle patented score of 7.1 out of 10. If you want to shut your brain off for a couple hours and watch some lederhosen get stained, this movie's perfect. You just have to know what to expect going in. Like I said, this guy's not gonna get hurt. His jawline blocks every bullet. So if you haven't watched The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, watch it. And if you have, subscribe or Freaky Cavill's gonna show up to your house at 3 a.m. In conclusion, the moral of the story, go watch The Gentleman.